Hello, everyone. I'm Kelsey Lemon, Senior Technical Marketing Manager for the Cloud Management Business Unit here at VMware, where my primary focus is Skyline. And for today's demonstration, I'm going to show Skyline Advisor in action and highlight some really cool features that I'm sure you'll find valuable. And so without further ado, let's jump right into the service so that we can see it in action. As you know, Skyline is a free service that is available for our production and premier subscription customers, as well as our Success 360 customers. It's also included with vRealize Cloud Universal. And when you log into the advisor, you're initially greeted with this dashboard. And you can think of it as mission control, where as an IT manager or admin, you get everything that you expect to see at your fingertips. And so going from left to right, you'll see your account type, your ID, as well as a contract number for your organization. You will also see the collectors associated with your organization. And so in this small test dev environment, you can see that I have several collectors in various states. And one thing that I want to point out about the collectors is that they're basically the brains of Skyline because the proactive intelligence that the service provides in the form of those findings and recommendations gets communicated through them. And if I were to expand one of my collectors, you'd see the architecture of my environment. You'd see how my endpoints are allocated across them as well. And these collectors have been given user-friendly names to help me easily identify where my collectors are deployed or how I intend on using them. And this actually leads me to another point around best practices for deploying Skyline collectors. You know, from an architecture point of view, deployment can be as simple or as complex as you like. You can have one collector for your entire organization, or you can have several. The flexibility is entirely yours. And the only recommendation that VMware makes from an architecture point of view is that if your environment has vCenter servers in multiple geographies, you should place a collector in the same region where that vCenter server is located. The dashboard also gives me an overview of my log assist usage, which is a very popular feature that I'm going to go through in more detail later in the demo. But at a high level, this feature does exactly what the name implies. It helps you create log bundles and attach them to support requests that our support team can help you resolve. My dashboard also gives me an overview of my findings and recommendations as well, and they're broken down by level of severity and category. And as I hover over each severity level, I get a tooltip. Critical findings show causes for data corruption, moderate findings impact usability, and trivial findings are recommended best practices. And obviously being able to identify issues by level of severity is a benefit that speaks for itself. But I also like how the advisor gives me the ability to see issues by category as well. And as you can see here, I have 117 issues being reported by Skyline, and they fall under networking, security, compute, and storage categories, as well as end user compute and operation management. And what I like about the ability to see issues grouped by category is that it allows me to focus on the issues that matter most to me. For example, if I know that my environment has a history of issues around storage, I can prioritize my proactive next steps based on the findings in Advisor. And if you're wondering, the answer is yes. These findings and these issues can be filtered by severity and category, giving me the ability to query and isolate the findings, again, that are most important to me. Then there's insight into the environment that Skyline is proactively monitoring as part of its operational overview. And this is where things get really interesting because it reflects all of the endpoints that Skyline has been made aware of during the configuration of the collector. And in this case, Skyline is monitoring an environment that consists of multiple vCenters, hosts, and virtual machines, as well as connections to my vRealize Operations Manager, Horizon Connection servers, and my NSX objects. And as an IT manager, I particularly like the operational overview because I can see what my collectors are monitoring. And when it's an exact match to what I know about my environment, it actually increases my confidence in the proactive findings that Skyline recommends. And as you can see from the configuration summaries and pie charts here, there's a lot happening There's a lot of data that provides great insight that will allow me to do my job more effectively. Finally, the dashboard allows you to see any open support requests that are associated with your organization so that you can track their status from end to end. Clicking on a support request number will allow you to track the history of all of your open and closed support requests, and you can sort the list by headings. You can apply filters to get specific results, and you can even export that list to Excel. And if you want further information, you can also review your support request details where you can ask for an uplift to severity. You can ask for the request to be closed, or you can ask for further manager assistance. And with that, now for the meat of the demo, proactive findings. And these are environment-specific issues that could potentially disrupt your day-to-day business and quite frankly give you a lot of headache if you don't take action to address them. And it's important to note that I said environment-specific because this is actually the value of Skyline, meaning that these findings aren't some generic rule of thumb or tip of the day recommendations that you as an IT manager already know about. These findings are relevant to this specific environment and they can play a key role in informing the next steps in your risk management plan. And those next steps can be as simple as prioritizing those findings by using Skyline's filter tool. With it, you can attack potential issues in your environment based on severity, category, finding, or any combination of the different filter types, allowing you to focus on what's most relevant to you. So with that, let's take a look at this first finding here. And as you can see, it's presented in an easy to read card format. And when I click on it, I can see a couple things. I see a unique finding ID that can be used in discussions internally or with VMware Global Support Services. I see the level of severity. I see a description of the potential issue discovered within this environment, as well as an indication to the risk to this environment if the recommended action is not completed. I can also see a list of all of the objects that could be impacted by this potential issue. And most importantly, I see a recommendation on how to resolve this potential issue, including hyperlinks to VMware knowledge base articles, security advisories, and other official VMware documentation. Now, this specific finding indicates that NTP is not configured on my ESXi host, which could impact the stability of my environment. Now, in addition to this, Skyline also provides additional information about my affected objects as well. And clicking on one of the hosts will show me a couple things. I can see the version number, I can see CPU and memory allocation, I can see CPU and memory usage, as well as hardware and virtual hardware information. So like I said before, there's a lot of information happening here. And earlier you heard me talk about Skyline's filtering capabilities. So let's take a look at that. I can apply filters based on specific criteria, again, such as severity, category, finding type, solution, and even when that potential issue was first observed. I can also use keyword searches to zero in on specific findings. And so here's one that I like to show, L1 terminal fault. And when I click on it, I can see that it's a moderate level finding that could potentially pose a security risk if action isn't taken. Now, in addition to adding filters to help me prioritize the findings that Skyline presents, I can also hide findings that aren't relevant as well. So let me demonstrate how to do that with the current finding that I have filtered. I'm going to click on the Select All button, then click Hide Findings, and then finally click OK. Now, the finding itself hasn't been deleted. I can still see it under my Hidden Findings option, and I can always unhide it in the future if it becomes a priority for me to resolve. And now for the really interesting part. Let's say, for example, you have a host that you're either using for testing purposes or it's in the process of being decommissioned. You can actually exclude findings from these objects by finding that particular object and turning off its visibility, thereby removing unwanted noise from the findings that aren't relevant to you. I should also point out that after I've customized my list of findings that are particularly relevant to me, I can export them for additional review are sent to other members of my team who may be the ones actually responsible for implementing the recommendations from Skyline Advisor. And this really cool feature is available for all Skyline customers. The export is a CSV file that can actually be leveraged by other tools, such as CLI tools, to automate the remediation of these findings. Upgrade recommendations are available under Findings and Recommendations. And clicking on an upgrade recommendation actually displays all of the recommendations for your environment. And they're sorted by vCenter Server. And if there are multiple upgrade recommendations, they are displayed in order of upgrade sequence. So in this example, the 3 EXXI hosts managed by this particular vCenter server has 3 upgrade recommendations, including the minimum build number of each version. So in this case, if I upgrade it to minimum build number 6.7U3, I would resolve 26 potential issues discovered by Skyline within my environment. But if I do decide to upgrade to a higher version than what is recommended, then the automatic product interoperability check will be invalidated. And speaking of interop, you may be asking yourself if performing the recommended upgrades will break connections to other VMware solutions. And I'm happy to say that Skyline automatically checks product interoperability for the upgrade recommendations. Clicking on Show Details next to the upgrade recommendation will actually display additional information, which includes product interoperability results. The product interoperability check will also alert you if another product is not interoperable with that upgrade recommendation. This way, you are made aware if another product needs to be upgraded first before performing the recommended upgrade. Now I'm going to move over to the findings catalog. And this feature answers the question, what exactly does Skyline protect my environment against? And here you can see everything. And the findings are sortable by severity, category, finding, and even date. You can even do keyword searches to find something that's relevant to you. Once a customer asked me if Skyline monitored and reported certificate expirations, I simply did a keyword search and I was able to show them that Skyline does indeed monitor expirations for VROPS, NSX, Horizon, and even vSphere. And of course, all of the other filtering options do apply as well. So for example, if you want to see all the critical vulnerabilities for security that Skyline checks for, you can go to the Findings catalog, identify them, and then you can go to your Active Findings tab to see if your environment is impacted by those same vulnerabilities. And if you're currently using Skyline, I encourage you to check this feature out. And if you want to see other findings and recommendations that aren't appearing in the catalog, let us know. Our findings catalog is constantly expanding. Now I'm going to move over to operational summary reports, or OSRs. And I should note that OSRs are only available to our Premier Service customers. And OSRs contain advanced findings and recommendations that come in 2 types of reports. The standard report is automatically generated every 2 weeks, and it's basically a snapshot of all the proactive findings that Skyline recommends. And it comes in 2 downloadable versions. There's a Word document that gives a listing of the findings, and a zip file that includes the Word document of the findings, as well as a CSV file that identifies all of the affected objects. And right underneath that are the custom reports, and they are created at your request by a support account manager that gets assigned to you as part of your Premier Support subscription benefit. So, for example, if you want to see all of these CPU vulnerabilities that are flagged by Skyline, your support account manager can generate it for you, and it's going to appear right here. Now, what I like about OSRs is that they are ideal for communicating up or for facilitating those C-level briefings on the health of the environment that I'm managing, as well as my recommendations on either improving or maintaining that health. And with that, I'm going to pause right here because I'm going to shift the conversation a bit. Up until this point, I've been talking about Skyline's proactive and self-service capabilities to keep the environments that you manage out of harm's way. but there may be times when you will need to react to an issue that is disrupting the environments that you manage, and our support team is here to help. And Skyline can also facilitate your interaction with our support team and even speed up total time to resolution. And this is where the log assist feature comes into play. After you've submitted a support request, Skyline Log Assist streamlines the process of manually gathering and uploading those log bundles that our TSEs will need to help troubleshoot your issue. Since the SR has already been opened, I can select it and I can attach a log bundle by initiating a log transfer. And at that point, I'm done. In less than 2 minutes, I've created a log bundle and I've sent it to support. You may have heard us mention on several occasions that customers are reporting a 30 to 40% time savings when creating log bundles, and this is how they're doing it. And with this being done, I can actually go back to more meaningful work now. And if I want to save myself even more time, I can even let VMware's TSEs create the log bundle for me with its log transfer request feature. I have the option to approve or deny the request, and there's even an option to auto-approve requests from our TSE team. And to keep tabs on the status of your SRs as well as the associated log bundle transfers, you can see that here in the log library. Here you can see who initiated the transfer, whether it was by you or by VMware, and you can also see when it was done. Now, before I end my overview demo, I want to point out two other cool features within Skyline. The first one is customizable email notifications. You can modify settings to alert you when new findings become available, when log requests have been made, when collector passwords are about to expire. You can even see when new features and critical findings are available. And if you're a Premier Support customer, you can also see when those OSRs are available as well. And what's really great about this great feature is that if you're a member of multiple organizations that's leveraging Skyline, you can actually customize the amount of information that's coming to your inbox. Now, the second feature is increased SR visibility for Skyline admins. Earlier in the demo, I showed how Skyline admins have greater visibility into the status of their team support requests via the dashboard. Now, to activate this functionality, simply toggle the View Support Requests Raised by Team Members option in the Skyline Advisor Settings tab. And with it enabled, you can submit log bundles on behalf of your extended team, as well as approve and reject log bundle requests. And if you have multiple entitlement accounts, you can link them, giving you a centralized location to monitor your team's interaction with our support request team, as well as track the status of their support requests. And with that, that concludes my demonstration of Skyline, and I hope you found it very valuable.